Hi, everyone. This is Stephen from Acumen, and thank you for taking the time to join us on our exclusive webinar, Why You Need to Automate AP for Sage. Today, we invited Alltech to show you DocLink and to give you a demonstration on how this solution can manage your AP by going paperless and automating those critical business processes and reducing costs. A quick note before I turn the meeting over to Patrick and John from Alltech. If you have any questions, then please use the chat option and we will try to answer throughout the presentation or near the end. With that said, I'm going to turn over the webinar over to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you folks for joining us this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you folks are here in the world. I'm Patrick Wind. I'm the sales director here at Alltech for the Southeast region. Been here at Alltech for 7 years. Been in the software space for almost 21, and about 15 of that is in the document and content management space. So do know a lot about document management and content. Also with me is John Claiborne. He's one of our senior sales engineer, and John will be walking through the demo portion of today's presentation. So you'll definitely get see a little bit of DocLink and how we work and how it works for AP automation. But certainly we can go beyond that. Our agenda for today, moving on. What we're going to cover, topics of discussions. We're going to talk about the value of automating AP. What is DocLink? Give you folks who aren't familiar with DocLink an idea on what DocLink is, and then how to automate AP. We'll talk about some customer successes, some well-known names you folks probably have heard of, and then how to automate other departments, other use case for other departments. We're going to have some polling questions. So at this point, it comes to our first polling question. And Stephen, if you could pop that open for the attendees to select the best answer on what are your biggest challenges here with your organization. Is it A, manual storage and document access is very manual because it's paper? Or is it B, manual and inefficient approval processes that you have throughout your organization? Is it C, too much time spent on data entry for your AP invoices, for instance? Is it D, there's a strategic initiative that's driving a change in the organization? Or E, evaluating for future use or future projects? Give you folks 10 seconds here to select the best answer. And Stephen, when you have a moment, let us know the results. And too much time spent doing data entry and manual and inefficient approval processes seem to be the top two. Manual and inefficient approval process, 55% there, and then 36% too much time spent on data entry, and then 9% manual storage. So certainly all those are key indication. Yeah, manual and inefficient approval process, usually number one or two, with too much time spent on data entry, the two most common we see as it relates to AP process. So hopefully we can share some insight in how we can utilize, how you can utilize DocLink and help your organization. Moving on. So the conversation during the past couple years with, all that's going on with COVID-19, as you can imagine, a lot of our customers, we had a lot of dialogue with our customers. And as you can see here, give you focus a few moments here to kind of read through what some of our customers have said. A lot of them were quite nervous, and many of us have never been through a pandemic, right? Not knowing what to do. But after the initial shock, a lot of our customers were comforted by the fact that they had DocLink in place. Without DocLink, they weren't able to function and do their day-to-day work and tasks from remote, from elsewhere. A lot of organizations still had things in paper, and our last 2 years have been super busy ourselves, just with organizations that wanted to go paperless and wanting to go digital. So our team, our implementation team, has been extremely busy and still are, because who's to say, we're not going to have another pandemic here anytime soon, or beyond just that, natural disasters. So think about hurricanes, tornadoes, floods. Florida just had a hurricane recently, right? What about all those businesses that went through that. So if they didn't have a document management system, what happens with their office being flooded, and couldn't access their office because the building was destroyed, things like that. So no matter where you are here in the US, there's hurricanes, there's floods, there's fires, there's tornadoes, there's earthquakes. So anything can happen at any point. And being prepared, having your organization be prepared for that is crucial. So why automate AP? A lot of our customers, I would say 80% of our customers, if not more, come to us with that, with the need to automate AP. The key thing here is time and money. They're the key drivers on why organizations automate AP. Most AP departments suffer from high AP transaction costs and cycle time. But here's a research by Ardent Partners that shows that AP automation with best-in-class accounts payable performance organization significantly lowers the processing cost and time per invoice, as shown in this chart that you see. When companies automate their AP invoices, costs get reduced by about 81% lower than the manual process, and processing time gets sped up to 73% faster than your traditional paper-based AP. So this is a research done by Ardent Partners, independent organization. Further research, and here by the Institute of Financial Management, or IOFM for short, shows that there are two key areas that, the top accounts payable automation priorities. It's going paperless and automating workflow. And as we did the survey, automating workflow was the number one thing that you folks have selected based on the results. And based on the survey that IOFM conducted, these are the two top: going paperless and automating workflow were the two top that they found. Higher value add. So think about the cost of touching documents. It's really unnecessary. There's definitely a better use for your staff's time and resources than having to file, having to retrieve paper documents, having to recreate documents because documents are lost, misplaced, or destroyed, right? With document management, like with DocLink, it adds higher value to each task in your business processes, liberating, wasted time and motion for your team, right? Having to do that. Here's a case study. One of our longtime client, it's Smart City Telecom. Following multiple mergers and acquisitions, they're a leading provider of event technology services nationwide. The company wanted to make the approval process for invoices more efficient and was also motivated to go green, so going paperless and more efficient workflow. The accounting department was challenged with managing the approval process on a manual basis, maybe similar to how you folks are doing it. Invoices weren't moving through the process quickly enough. Managers were sitting on their invoices. Things weren't getting approved on time. Documents were lost or inadvertently thrown away. With DocLink, implementing DocLink, they are entirely paperless through their accounting department. All their accounting records, all their documents are now virtual, and they have been for probably over 10 years now. They've been using our software. And because everything is electronic, items can no longer be delayed because it's sitting on someone's desk. We could set up workflow so there's reminders and escalation procedures, which we did for them. And as a communications company, Smart City is also required to store invoices for a longer period of time than most other companies here in the US. And now they can simply access everything online utilizing DocLink. Makes it super easy for them. There are 4 areas automating for success, 4 elements necessary to have AP success, and it's visibility, collaboration, control, and automation. Let's review this at a higher level. Let's talk about each one of these pillars. So the first one here is visibility. Having visibility is important. Having visibility into your liabilities and operating expenses is a basic requirement for most major functions within the enterprise, right? And it is used to give the overall view of the operations and establish standards on which to base strategies on, right? Your planning, your strategic initiatives, and how to improve performance. It is also a key factor in giving AP departments a higher degree of influence throughout the organization as a strategic partner in the business. So visibility is very important to your liabilities. Next comes collaboration. And what about collaboration? It's collaboration and the cross-function coordination among key stakeholders in different departments, such as the accounts payable, the procurement department, the finance and treasury, and suppliers, so that it creates an environment where key information flows easily between all the key stakeholders. Without this, without collaboration and visibility, you don't have control. And control becomes important because you want to have good control throughout your organization so that you can control, when you pay your invoices, make sure you don't pay your invoices late. There's no late payment fees issued by your vendors, eliminating any duplicate invoices that are received. Our system can catch that. Maybe take advantage of early payment discounts. How does that affect your bottom line? If you can reduce your overall bill by paying early, and then also prevent fraudulent payments, having control over that. Last but not least, the last pillar here is automation. Technology solutions to help you manage invoices and workflow and electronic payment methods reduce the inefficiency of manual and paper-based processes. Automation is a critical foundation to lowering the costs and streamlining each of the 4 AP sub-processes. So being able to automate the whole process, lowering the costs and streamlining AP and integration into your Sage ERP system. So how does DocLink work for automation, AP automation? DocLink has the ability to connect the right people at the right time with the right documents so that each person in each group can do their assigned tasks in an effective and efficient manner. We streamline the workflow process and the operation. It gives back control of the document data and then, of course, the transaction. You have control and the software manages that. DocLink also gives you the capability to send out documents and packages out of our system to internal folks in your organization or external folks, whether it's customers or vendors. Okay. Lastly, DocLink kind of fills the whole complete cycle and give you an idea on what DocLink is. The core of DocLink, that circle you see there in the middle, is the DocLink core system, the repository where everything is stored and managed. We have 2 flavors of DocLink. We have our traditional on-premise version of DocLink, where the software gets installed on your server, documents are stored there. We also have a true cloud multi-tenant SaaS version of DocLink that runs on Azure, Microsoft Azure, and it sits in the cloud. So whatever technology preference you have, we have both offerings. A lot of different ways you could bring in documents or content for that matter into DocLink. You could scan paper-based documents in utilizing OCR, which we'll touch on as part of the demo. OCR stands for optical character recognition. It reads data on the document and repurposes that data. Quite often that's utilized for AP invoice for OCR. Paper-based documents that get scanned in typically get stored as TIFF or PDF images. We could pick up documents from email. We could pick up documents from network folders. We could read barcodes. We could bring in documents or report that comes out of your Sage ERP system. We can have electronic import of those documents or reports that you want to bring in. You could also bring in documents that are already in electronic format. And we'll store them in their native formats, such as Word. You could store Excel. You can store PDF, pretty much any format. We have customers that are engineering firms and they store AutoCAD drawings, SolidWorks. You could store WAV files, multimedia files. We don't care what format it's in. You could certainly store those content and documents in DocLink in the repository here. Once documents or content are brought into DocLink, you can have processes around them, workflow. We'll touch on this as part of the demo. John will show how the workflow process works and on all the different ways you could do approvals and how you get notified. You can set up routing rules based on customer, based on vendor, based on dollar amount. So things get routed around electronically, automatically. We also have a forms capability, which we're not going to touch on today as part of the demo, but we do have a forms where you can create any type of business form through our software. And then our two-way integration, which we'll touch on into Sage, especially on the AP side. You could send out documents out of our system, packages out of our system. And then we'll touch on all the different ways you could retrieve for documents, whether it's directly from the Sage screens, how you access documents there if you're a Sage user. And then what if you're not a Sage user, how you access documents through DocLink in itself through our simple search and retrieval capability. Okay. Like I mentioned earlier, DocLink often starts with AP because it's so paper intensive. And the key thing here is there's three major benefits in utilizing DocLink to automate your accounts payable process. It gives you the ability to provide a self-service portal, easy access through a web browser to the workflow, to documents, whether you have it on-premise or in the cloud, DocLink in the cloud. It provides you an electronic digital workflow capability so that approvals are done in a timely manner, no matter where you are. And then it eliminates the need to manual file and minimize the tedious data entry process, and ultimately contributed to a huge win by streamlining that whole entire process. Next slide here, traditional AP process. This slide illustrates all the different process and steps that a traditional manual paper-based process that most organizations go through, right? All these different points here. With DocLink and implementing DocLink for your organization for AP automation, we're able to reduce 60% of these manual steps to where the only thing you'll need to do as a user or as a manager or someone in AP is to code, to approve, promote to GL, which is the integration into the Sage ERP system. Simple 3 steps. Smart Capture OCR. Talk a little bit about our OCR here. It's an artificial intelligence driven OCR technology. You don't have to create a template for each and every vendor. The software has built-in knowledge so that invoice classification is automatically done. It'll know if this is a PO based invoice or a non-PO. It has the AI, artificial intelligence machine learning capability, where it's going to automatically extract and knows the header, footer information and line item information, because all invoices have similar data on it. You know, the layout from one vendor to the next may be different, but the data there is all the same, because all vendors will issue you an invoice with an invoice number. It's going to be an invoice date. There's going to be totals, dollar amounts, you know, item number, item description, unit cost, total cost, and all the different variations on how a vendor may spell out those fields. It has built-in technology so that it knows that classification and learning. It results in a really clean, straight-through processing and only manage by exception, right? You don't have to touch every single invoice, and you'll need to just manage by exception. The benefit here is, think about the cost savings that your organization will have, right? If you have offsite storage, what are you paying for that? If you have on-site storage, you know, can you use that office space for something else or reduce office space? Are you paying for, you know, paper by printing things out, copy? I've heard organizations, some clients, where they get their invoices electronic, but they still print it out and they file that piece of paper? Well, that's cost, right? For your printer, toner, copy machine. What about if you have multiple office locations? I've heard clients where each location gets their own invoices and they ship it all to corporate. So that cost, what is that costing you? And then time savings. Think about all the time savings your organization can have with searching, filing, copying, data entry, manual approvals, and then strategic initiatives that you may have for your organization, being able to grow without having to add additional staff, take advantage of early payment discounts or avoid late fees. Thing that a lot of organizations don't think about, but the benefit that DocLink provides you with your audits, making audits so much easier without having digging through boxes, filing cabinets, warehouse to gather all the documents your auditors are asking for, when you could access everything electronically and be able to access things in seconds or minutes versus taking hours or days to get all the documents together. And then the key thing here is disaster preparedness, all right? Whether, like I mentioned earlier, no matter where you are, you're subject to natural disaster. So are you prepared for that? Our next polling question before we go into the demo here, and Stephen, if you could pop that open on the screen, polling here, where do you see the value of AP automation for your organization? Is it A, remote access to documents? Is that key? Do you still have a hybrid workforce where there's folks in the office part-time remote? They need to be able to do their day-to-day job when they work from home. Is it B, streamlined approval process? Is it C, overall time savings? Is it D, overall cost savings? Or E, you're looking to meet a strategic goal, right? Is your organization growing and you want to be able to grow without having to add additional staff? Or is there some other initiative in your organization? Give you folks a few seconds here to select the best answer. All right, good results. It looks like the number one is 58% of you folks said overall time savings, which that's huge. Streamlining approval process is also there at 17%. Remote access to documents. So it looks like, there's some organizations and some of you folks have a need and have a hybrid workforce, or maybe people still working fully remote. 8% meet strategic goals. So definitely we can help you with that. And at this point, we're going to go into the demo of DocLink and showing you folks how DocLink works and automating your AP process. And at this point, I'm going to turn things over to John Claiborne. John, you should have controls.
Okay, so let's start by taking a look at capture. So this is usually going to be the first step in a process. What we're taking a look at here is DocLink Smart Capture. So this helps to eliminate a lot of the data entry with documents, not only AP invoices, but it could be other documents in other processes as well. This generation of OCR that's being used is using machine learning and artificial intelligence to determine the document type and extract values from that document. Okay, so older generations of OCR, maybe you've used some of those. Older generations would have you actually build templates. Those templates were a one-to-one relationship between your vendors. So there would be one template per vendor to specify where and how to pull the information off of that invoice. So that's gone, no longer needed. As you use the software, it's going to learn, and for subsequent invoices, it's going to be able to get better at pulling that information itself. So what we're looking at here would be where a required value wasn't captured and we need to fill it in, or perhaps one of the validations that we have isn't validating and we need to have some actual eyeballs on it. So for example, like this invoice here, it wasn't able to find the subtotal. We could come in, click on that, and we'd find that that subtotal is now found, and we can move on to the next value. Okay. So really, again, you're only going to see those that have issues at this point. Obviously, the goal is to have as many of those pushed through as possible. And as you're using it, it's going to actually learn your vendors so that subsequent invoices can flow right on through. Okay. Another kind of point to this OCR is, years ago, everything was coming in through mail. That's since changed. Everybody that I talk to now, 80, 95% of invoices that are coming into an organization are coming in through email. And so there's a lot of email bloat with OCR. It's actually going to monitor an inbox. So instead of, say, having these invoices come into your personal inbox, you can have them go to a specific inbox that's monitored by OCR. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at what happens after those documents come in. So if you're using purchase orders and you have PO invoices that you're processing, there's usually some matching that needs to take place. So with OCR, it has the ability to capture header, line item, and footer information. We can then take those values and use that in an automated PO match process. With PO matching, it's kind of a two-step where first it's going to attempt to match the line data to ERP data. Second, there are validations that can be configured. So they'll be validating the line to make sure, for example, the invoice quantity is within tolerance or unit price matches the order. If all of that goes well, it can go and import into the ERP. If there's a discrepancy, you can work through that with the screen that you see here. So up here, it's telling you that there was a exact item code match with the discovery rule for linking the line. Okay. Also, a little note about that: when you're matching up item codes between your vendor invoice and your ERP, sometimes you'll have the vendor's item number in there. So maybe in an alias field, we can point to that for the matching. We can point to your item code for the matching. If there isn't a match and somebody has to manually link it, we've got an option for creating translations. So you can check a box and have it remember that for this vendor and this item code on their invoice, that it matches to your item code in your ERP. So again, subsequent invoices come in after somebody's manually linked, it's going to know to use that translation to link up the line. Okay. So it linked it. Then there was a variance or a failed validation issue here. So again, these are configurable. You can set up the tolerance that you want to allow, or if no tolerance, you can specify that as well. So the way that you look at this, this line right here, this is what was captured from OCR. So the values extracted from the invoice. Down below, we've got the ERP field values. Okay, so while you're on this screen, you can make any changes to the fields above. Or if you need to make changes in the ERP, you can pull that up on another screen or side by side, make the changes, hit refresh. It's going to real time pull that new data in from the ERP and run through the validation. Down below, you can go ahead and update. So if you made any changes to the invoice line fields, you could send that on. If it was a price issue or quantity issue, as part of those validations, you can specify who within workflow it needs to go to. So if it's the original buyer of the PO, you could push it back to that person. If it was maybe a quantity issue, you could send it to receiving. You can configure it around however your process is. Okay. All right, so that's PO matching for PO invoices. Let's take a look now at the non-PO invoices. So let's flip back here and take a look. Okay. Hang on real quick while I flip through this. Okay. So for non-PO invoices, we'll come into workflow. And here's workflow. You kind of get a dashboard view of any of those that you flag as your favorite. So it tells you the status that the documents are in and how many there are. So let's take a look at unprocessed non-PO. Okay, so for non-PO invoices, we use a distribution stamp. This is part of our integration with Sage. And this basically is where you go in to do the coding of the invoice so that it can later on be automatically imported into Sage. And so the way this works, we create a new one. It pulls in any of the values that were extracted by OCR. Okay, we can go to the detail section. Within here, we can add in lines. When we do that, it also respects config within Sage so that if there's default account codes for the vendor that's been selected, it'll pull in that account code. We've also got lookups to various pieces of data to help with the coding so that when this stamp is done, it's all ready for import into Sage. Okay. All right. So let's go back to Sage now. I'll show you another part of our integration where we have multiple screens that we integrate to. The integration is two-way. So if you make a change in the screen, it updates values within DocLink and the other way as well. So let's go to a record here for a PO number. We've got a view documents button. This button's on multiple screens and you can use it to pull up those documents within DocLink. Now, I've gone over OCR. If the document is coming from one of your business systems like Sage, we're going to capture those through a virtual printer. So there's no physical print unless you need it. It's just going to capture the image of the document you printed inside of DocLink. As well, it would capture any of the values that are printed on that document. We also have the ability to automatically route those out through email if you need that. Let's go here and we'll search. And let's find some documents here. So we've got on the screen here a check and an AP invoice. We're able to search and pull those up. With DocLink, we link documents by property values, okay? That means that when you search, you'll get a result set like this, where you know that I can click on this row and open up this document type, okay? So what we try to stay away from is creating one big multi-page image where you have to pull it up and sort through all the pages to find what you're looking for. So instead, you can just find these here and open them up. Okay, along with capturing images, once they're in the system, we've got workflow history. So again, workflow is tracking a document from beginning to end. We track users as far as actions that they've performed. We even track automation so that you know the date, the time, and where it was sent and who sent it. You can even get more granular than that with auditing. Auditing can be configured per document type, where you choose what's important to have audited for you, and it can create the audit trail like you see here on the right-hand side. So if somebody's, you can see that somebody viewed a document, all sorts of things. Somebody even downloaded it if they have permission. They made changes to a stamp or saved the stamp. All of that information gets tracked so that you can easily call that up. If you have auditors that come in, you can grant them access by creating a user account and assigning roles where they can look this up, or you can do searches, download to a folder with our smart client and hand them that on a thumb drive or have them download it, and they'll only be able to search those documents that you either downloaded or provided them access to.
All right, very good. Thank you for answering those questions, John. Let's go ahead and move on. John walked through a great demo of AP automation integration with Sage 300. We also work with Sage Intact, which you folks may use here on the line. But a lot of approval process capability, right? We talked about approval through DocLink. There's email approval. You could even approve through our mobile app, which we support iOS and Android compatible devices. There's a lot of different ways to do approvals through DocLink electronically. One of the key things with AP automation is minimizing data entry. Regardless of how a document comes into your business, you can safely bring that into DocLink, capture the document, automatically index it with OCR, as John showed you, with our Smart Capture AI intelligent OCR, running through the system, eliminating any need for you to manually match, reconcile. The software can do it all for you, and you're only managing by exception, right? Leveraging the data that's in the Sage ERP system, reducing any human errors because the software is going to capture it, and only stop to validate ask someone to validate the data if it has a question, right? The key thing there is just a streamline of your AP process, getting it into the ERP system as soon as possible so that it eliminates any manual workflow process, eliminating any manual data entry, as well as reconciliation, stuff like that. So streamlining that process. Monitoring workflow status is improving visibility and reporting. We talked a little bit about this earlier with one of the pillars. Let's dig a little bit deeper. It's, being able to see where things are at, right? If you're in the accounting department, you want to see where an invoice is at in its approval process, who has the invoice, where it still needs to go. You'll have that capability being in the accounting, being a workflow supervisor, knowing where things are at any point in time with an invoice. Managing audit trails, you'll know everything that happens to an invoice, where it's at, who's approved it, when they approved it, date and time stamped, and all that. Improve financial reporting so that you'll know, when things are in DocLink, you can run reports to see, run your accrual reports, things that are still in approval process but haven't been imported into Sage and created the transaction. So you'll have that. We also streamline intercompany accounting, regardless if you have multiple locations or multiple departments or multiple companies. DocLink does have that capability of streamlining intercompany accounting. A lot of questions that we hear a lot of is, what if I want to expand this beyond other departments, other groups? What about security? I want to make sure that only certain users, certain groups can access certain information. Well, we do have very detailed security and very tight security. So where as a user, you could set up users and set up security based on an individual users or assign them to group based on security groups like accounting. You can have HR, you can have legal groups, you name it, as many groups as you want. So one of the security access is if your organization has multiple companies, you could set up multiple companies inside DocLink as well. So top level security, you as a user, which company can you access? Next is department. You can set up security by department. Like I mentioned, accounting, HR, legal, as many different departments as you have, you could set that up in our system. So setting up users and assigning them to the different departments. And you could have security based on document types and groups by document types. And what I mean by document type is an AP invoice is a document type, a packing slip is a document type, a purchase order is a document type, a contract could be a document type. You know, there's HR documents such as an employee application. You know, there's different document types, and you could assign users or groups to access only certain document types. And then we go even further where you could lock things down by property values or metadata values of the document. Like for instance, maybe I'm an AP clerk for company A, and I only manage invoices for company A, but for vendors that start with A through M. So I would only see AP invoices. I can only access company A and see invoices for vendors that start with A through M. Anything else I wouldn't see. So that's how we can lock things down. Anything that happens to a document, we track a full audit log of it. So all the way down to viewing, someone viewed it, this date and timestamp of this user viewing it. And, you know, we could set up security, you know, so that you could only view the document. What can you do with it? Can you delete it? Can you make changes to the property value? Can you print it out? Can you send out that document? We can have security on that as well, and what can happen. We keep a full audit log of that. AP automation, customer success. Let's talk on some other customers that we have. AAA, very well-known organization. Their key initiative was accountability of timely approvals and being able to take advantage of early payment discounts. Also, utilizing our system for quick reimbursements of employee expense reports. So like I mentioned a little bit earlier, we have a forms capability. One of the forms that we use, a lot of our clients use, is expense report form capability. We use DocLink internally as well here at Alltech, and I use it for expense report and managing customer contracts. So AAA, big need was approval, being able to take advantage of early payment discounts, and that ties in with approval, making sure invoices are approved on time, and then also expense report. So that's how they implemented DocLink. Another organization is Palm Springs Aerial Tramway in California. They are a kind of tourist attraction where it takes you all the way up to the mountain there in Palm Springs. Their key initiative was over a period of time, they were experiencing rapid growth. They grew 50% over a short period of time, and their business impact was significant, requiring new processes to ensure that the office continues to run as smooth as possible. Being able to manage invoices electronically was one of the big things. All their POs and invoices, they wanted to get digital. They're, you know, not having any more paper there. AP was able to scan their invoices, system automatically matched them to POs, any exceptions or workflow approval needed, all done electronically. They could easily track the workflow process on the invoices where things are at. AP no longer spent hours searching for documents and waiting for approvers to approve invoices and hunting down approvers and managers to do approvals. Everything was managed electronically and digitally with DocLink. And as they grow, they were looking to add an additional AP staff, but with DocLink, they didn't have to do that. So they were able to just manage everything with the AP staff that they have. So huge win for this organization as well. So how can DocLink impact other parts in your organization, right? Other groups and departments. We talked about accounting and AP, you know, being able to eliminate the manual paper process there and access everything electronically and manage the automated three-way matching. But beyond that, think about other groups and departments here, right? How about AR, right? On the AR side, what if you need to send out monthly customer statements and supporting invoices for that? We can automate that out of DocLink for you. What about if your folks are a field service organization and need to access documents for your customers when your field technicians are on site? How do you do that today? There's use case there with our mobile capability. HR, we're seeing this more and more. HR departments wanting to go digital, getting employee files all electronic. DocLink can certainly help you with that. And all the different forms in HR, we can recreate those forms, not the government forms, but forms such as, new employee onboarding, annual review form. It could be time off request form, things like that. Facilities management, all the documentations for the facilities department. What about legal? Managing contracts, right? We have an integration with DocuSign where once the contract is finalized, we can track all the different iterations and versions of contracts too before they're finalized, but then sending out that contract to get digitally signed and stored back in our system, and monitoring expiration dates. All contracts, whether it's between you and a customer or you and a vendor, they expire. So tracking those expiration dates and notifying you before they expire, 30, 60, 90 days, that you could take action, be proactive on those contracts, right? How are you managing that today? Sales order processing. This is coming up more and more where we're able to automate the sales order process, very much like the AP process, OCRing an incoming customer PO and feeding that into the ERP system and creating the sales order without having someone in the sales department manually keying that in. You're getting a lot of sales orders, a lot of line items. That could speed up that sales order process and getting things shipped and out the door a lot quicker, right? So a lot of different use case there for DocLink throughout your organization beyond AP. Think about other things that we talked about. So document management and workflow is important to business process optimization, cost savings, integral part strategic planning initiatives for your accounting group and department. Things to think about also is choose a solution that is scalable, not only both for what you need today, but for your future growth in your organization when you're picking a solution. Think about the manual process, the soft and hard costs that you have in your organization on how you do things today, and think about, where a solution and the strategy fits for your organization for document management. And lastly, have you mapped the process for your organization and thought about the cost implication at each step? Reveal what's broken and where you spend time to fix it, and how a solution like DocLink can really help you. Okay. Last polling question before we open things up for even more questions. But Stephen, if you could pop this up then on the screen and let the folks here select the best answer. What did you learn from today's session here with us, with John and I? Did you learn that DocLink can reduce invoice processing time by 75% or more? Is it B, DocLink can reduce approval times from weeks or days to hours, or even minutes for that matter, because once things hit our system, we send out notification to managers immediately? Or is it C, DocLink works enterprise-wide across many departments? Or is it D, you could use DocLink today and you'd like to learn more and you'd like to be contacted? So give you folks a few minutes here or a few seconds to answer the best answer on what you learned today. So results, what did you learn? So it looks like 40% selected A, DocLink can reduce invoice processing time by 75% or more. Good, glad we were able to show you folks that. 20% selected DocLink can reduce approval times. 30% selected DocLink works enterprise-wide across many departments. That's good. It's like 10% of you folks said you could use DocLink today. So certainly, reach out to us. Reach out to the Acumen team, your customer account manager there at the Acumen team. We want to open things up for questions, but here's how you reach out to your Acumen team. There's a dial number there, and there's the email for your account management team there at Acumen. but we want to open things up to see. I know we answered a few questions right after John's demo, but if there's any other questions, we still have about 5 minutes left today of today's webinar. Certainly are here to answer any other questions you folks may have.
Hey, Patrick, one question that came in, it says, I assume this is a full package purchase, or can I piecemeal it?
You could piecemeal it. It's really dependent on, it's based on users and modules. So you may want things specifically on the AP side, and we'll set things up for that, but it's really based on users and modules and what your requirements are, where you want to deploy it.
Thank you. And another one that came in, it says, can prior invoices already paid get added to the software and linked back to Sage?
Yes.
Let me see if there's any more coming in. One more, it says, if you don't get the OCR module, how do you manually index your documents?
So without the OCR module, yes, someone has to index the document. So input that data in. So whether you input that in through our entry screen on our side or through Sage, you only have to do it once. If you do it, ideally, the Sage screen is easier because you're more familiar with that screen. So you would input it in through Sage, and then that data that you've entered into Sage will flow in and get assigned to that document automatically with our side-by-side integration.
Perfect. It looks like that's all the questions that have been coming in. So I'll go ahead and wrap up. So thank you all again for joining us today. If you do have any additional questions, please reach out to Acumen by calling 407-965-2411, or you can always reach out to your account manager. We'll also be posting this webinar on our YouTube. So if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel just for the latest add-ons and the tools that you can connect with Sage. I'd like to thank Patrick and John again for taking the time to give us a great presentation, and we look forward to seeing you guys all on our next webinar Wednesday.
Thank you all. Thank you, Acumen.